All right, guys, here we go. So, Michael Rapaport is quite obnoxious, to say the least. I mean, he's got his own little niche. He's got a bunch of people who support him and are fans of him. But recently, he's really lost his mind over Israel and Gaza. I mean, he is an ultra mega Zionist. He's one of these guys who's like, Palestinian civilians, that's not even a thing. So he's sort of been losing his mind over that. Well, now he's starting to do the classic tap dance that we've seen from a number of figures in the recent past. The, hey man, I'm more liberal than I am conservative, but, I sure do see a lot of concerning stuff on the left here. So maybe even, voting for Trump is on the table, bro. Maybe even voting for Trump is on the... I'm not conservative, though, but voting for Trump is definitely on the table now, bro. So there's a couple issues that he's snapped over. This rant made some headlines because he's not viewed as a conservative guy. I mean, he calls Trump Dick Stain Trump. So he's certainly not a Trump lover. He's certainly not a Republican kind of guy. But look at this transition that's happening slowly but surely in front of our eyes. Watch this.
This is why when I say voting for pig Donald Trump is on the table, voting for pig Donald Trump is on the table. The other day in New York City, 6 illegal aliens jumped a New York City cop, NYPD's finest. They jumped a New York City cop in Times Square and were arrested and released without bail. I know it's a city thing. I know it's a state thing. I know all that. I know all that. Okay? Stay with me. Released without bail. Came out of the courtroom on some Tupac raising the middle finger with the Detroit Red Wings jersey. Let me tell you something. What the is the world coming to? If you could be from another country, beat up a cop in New York City, and walk out with no bail, what the is the world coming to? What the is the world coming to?
None of this has anything to do with Biden. None of this has anything to do with Biden at all. He just said, I know it's a state thing, I know it's a local thing. Okay, then why are you taking away national conclusions as a result of that? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all.
You're from Brownsville, Brooklyn. I know this. Like, what the have I gotten myself into? Stay with me. On the same day that happens, Cadaver Joe Biden issues an executive order about 4 quote-unquote settlers in Judea, Samaria, a.k.a. the West Bank. Some troublemakers, 3 of the 4 have already been arrested. You issue an executive order about 4 troublemaking ups who've already been arrested in Judea, Samaria, while there's a war going on, while there's 100+ hostages still being held in Gaza. You're talking about that, but you got nothing to say about beating up cops in New York City, the greatest city on earth. Maybe it's not. Maybe my city is not the greatest city on earth anymore. If you could beat up cops in the quote-unquote greatest city in the world and be released without bail, are we the greatest city on earth? Cadaver Joe Biden, we see you. We see you. Don't worry about those in Israel. BB got them. Israel will take care of them. Worry about cops getting beat up in Times Square and walking out with no bail like the Tupac Shakur. Worry about that shit. This is why voting for pig Donald Trump is still on the table.
Wow. So the real reason why he's turning on Biden here and saying voting for pig dick Donald Trump is on the table is the Israel part. That's the reality of it. What was Donald Trump's posture with Israel? Hey, Sheldon Adelson gave me $100 million on 2 separate occasions, once in 2016, once in 2020. He wanted the embassy moved to Jerusalem. I agreed to that. I kept the money flowing. I kept the weapons flowing. So I'll let them do whatever the hell they want. Shit, you want to nuke Gaza? By all means, go right ahead. Right? Joe Biden has also had that same policy vis-a-vis Israel. You can do whatever the hell you want, but he's done some posturing publicly and finger wagging and, I don't agree with you on this. I don't agree with you on that. There was an article that came out the other day that he called Netanyahu a fucking bad guy or something like that. It's all PR, virtue signal, ass covering that I don't agree with them killing all these massive numbers of civilians, I swear. But functionally, the policy is exactly the same. Total green light. We're going to continue the money flowing. We're going to continue the weapons flowing. You do whatever the hell you want. We'll help cover your ass at the United Nations. But he's offended and outraged at the idea that Biden dared to do another virtue signal where he said, hey, 4 illegal Israeli settlers, I'm going to sanction you. By the way, this is total window dressing. The sanctions won't even mean anything. It's not like these people are trying to get into the United States anyway. It's just a way of saying, like, we are against the super extremes on the Israeli side as well. That's why we're going to do this. No, if you were actually against the extremes on the Israeli side, you would cut off the funding and cut off the weapons, because the extremists are the government. It is Netanyahu, it is Ben-Gvir, it is Smotrich, it is that defense minister who had the insane comments about how there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. We're going to cut off the food, the fuel, the water, the electricity to all of these human animals. We're going to do massive collective punishment against every single man, woman, and child in all of Gaza, 2.3 million people, when there's only 30,000 members of Hamas. But even the little virtue signal against the illegal Israeli settlers, that little ass-covering PR maneuver, the ultra-mega Zionist that is Michael Rapaport, that's the real thing that made him snap and say, how dare you, Joe? How dare you? And he's trying to tie in this idea about, criminal undocumented immigrants. Well, guess what? The whole debate going on right now in the Senate, Biden is trying to get the authority to totally shut down the border. I'm not kidding. He wants to go so far that they pass a bill to remove due process. That's not even supposed to be on the table. That's not constitutional. That's not legal. They want to override the supreme law of the land. They want to override human rights and say, we'll get to the point where we totally shut down the border, where you don't even get your day in court. You don't even get a hearing. It doesn't matter if you're a refugee and you're fleeing from wanton gang violence or a famine or whatever. We don't care. We're going to kick you right out. No questions asked. Don't even tell your story. We're not interested. And you're not going to get in front of a judge. It's just immediate turnaround, kick their ass out. That's what he wants to do. That's what he's trying to do. He's negotiated a super far right-wing conservative bill to crack down on immigrants. You know, people totally misunderstand it because it says, like, after 5,000 come in, then you trigger the totally shutting down the border. But what they don't understand is that 5,000 is not guaranteed to stay in. It's just that 5,000, in theory, might have some due process and then get kicked out. But Biden's saying, I want to remove all the due process. So, and by the way, this notion that, like, Biden is to blame for these state laws or local laws that, you know, got rid of bail or what have you. Again, to reiterate Biden's record on the border, he's super similar to Trump. In fact, it's a criticism that many on the left have of him. This is from the Cato Institute. New data shows migrants were more likely to be released by Trump than Biden. According to new data published last month, the Biden Department of Homeland Security has removed a higher percentage of arrested border crossers in its first 2 years than the Trump DHS did over its last 2 years. Moreover, migrants were more likely to be released after a border arrest under President Trump than under President Biden. In absolute terms, the Biden DHS is removing 3.5 times as many people per month as the Trump DHS did. These figures are important for understanding how each administration has carried out border enforcement. Then they go on to say that during the Trump administration, DHS made 1.4 million arrests in fiscal year 2019 and 2020. Of those people arrested, only 47% were removed. Okay, for Biden, it is 52%. Oh, I'm sorry. 47% were removed, which includes people arrested by Trump and removed by Biden, and 52% were released into the United States. Under Biden, DHS made over 5 million arrests in his first 26.3 months, and it removed nearly 2.6 million, that's 51%, while releasing only 49%. So in other words, he kicked out more as a percentage, as a raw number two, over time. This is no surprise because under the Obama administration, they were called the deporter-in-chief back then, because Obama was also breaking deportation records. Biden kept in place a lot of the Trump-era policies that remain in Mexico, Title 42. But one of the issues is Title 42, which threw due process out the window, immediately kicked people out the second they came because of the pandemic. When the pandemic was officially concluded, they no longer had that ability to just immediately kick out, no questions asked. And so people, seemingly all of Washington wants to bring that back. But again, you run into constitutional issues where it's like, you can't just say no due process from now until the end of time. But they're trying to do that anyway. So look, the point is, are there criticisms of Biden when it comes to immigration? Yes. Those criticisms are from his left, that he's way too similar to Trump. And so to put this on him, as if he did something wrong, as if he passed the laws here that impacted the situation. Yeah, do I think if you're assaulting cops, you should be able to get out that same day? Fucking of course not, right? But that's more of an issue of pretrial detention. Pretrial detention is another thing that's not really constitutional because you're holding them without a trial, right? The real answer there would be have a case immediately. But that means you just need more judges. And you need people to actually have a right to a speedy trial where they get it, where they're not waiting around for 6 months before they actually get their day in court. That's really... But look, the point is, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So we should stop talking. If you don't know about the actual policies in question, you don't know about the records in question, just shut the fuck up. But look, at the end of the day, it's a moot point. Why? Because that has nothing... He brought up the immigration thing as that's the side point. The real point is he's pissed off because Joe Biden dared to do a virtue signal against the extremist illegal Israeli settlers. Because I've never seen a Zionist more extreme than Michael Rapaport. I mean, he's truly on the team of, anybody who defends Palestinians is pro-Hamas. There are no innocent civilians in Gaza. The IDF is a virtuous and moral army. They're the most moral army in the world. Never mind. Don't look at the fact that they're bombing the hospitals and they're bombing the schools and they're bombing the infrastructure and they told people to move from the north to the south and then they bombed them on their way to the south. Don't look at the fact that North Gaza has been wiped off the map and you have people holding conventions talking about how they're going to resettle Gaza. Don't look at any of that. Don't look at any of that. Don't look at the ethnic cleansing as the official open policy when they say we're trying to push them through the Egypt border and set up a tent city in the Sinai Desert. Don't look at any of that. Israel's still the good guys no matter what. Doesn't matter what the facts are. That's this guy's whole identity now. It's his whole identity. He's made it very clear. And that's the real reason he's pissed at Biden. He's just trying to bring in the immigration thing as a second point to add on to that, even though he knows it doesn't even make sense because Biden had nothing to do with what happened there. So, look, it's the classic, how many times have we seen it, right? And people do it for different reasons, but it's the old, Dave Rubin, why left the left type shtick. Oh, I didn't change, they changed, and they got super extreme, and I stayed the same, and so... I'm a liberal, but the conservatives sure are right about everything. He's doing that same sort of shtick here. He's doing the same thing. And now we got maybe we'll vote for Donald Trump over this. Well, Donald Trump sure did give Israel every single fucking thing they ever wanted. And that seems to be his main issue. He's made that crystal clear. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You want to.